me share this with you. Okay, so in this, on the tasks of this lab 2, would like to just use whatever the files, these are the files that are part of this lab 2 that were given to you, and we would like to do something with them based on these tasks, etc. So the first ones are kind of easy, and then Walaikum Salam. We would like to just write a class test double DLL for doubly linked list that manages double values. You should have operations similar to those that the test integer DLL. Basically, we would like to take this. This is the one that works with dynamically linked lists, and instead of working with ints, we make it work with double. All you have to do, I'm just doing this because just probably you did not find whatever we did last time, but you can find also some videos that talk about that in the lab 1. So just take this and you can copy, Control C, Control V. This is going to pop up this window telling you what's the new name that you would like to have, and this is my new name. And then you have to click refactor. This is going to create now a new class called test double. Now this test double will require to have double values. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that, but instead of doing it like this, I will select this and press Control H. Control H tells me that I can find and replace. That's better. And I'd like to select one by one. Now this one is selected, I want to replace it. Then select the other one, replace it. And then this one, replace it. And yes, integer, replace it again. And just see problems, but that's all the integers, no more. That means I replace all the integers with this double. Now yes, it's I'm going just to go from the first one and go down just to fix my problems one by one. Now this one says next int, again next int, Control H should be next double, and find the previous one so I can start from here, and then replace, 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 and replace. But now I have more problems because this target is an int, and if I click on it, go to the declaration. If you somewhere you would like to find the declaration of a variable, you press the control key and then the variable itself. It will take you to where this variable is declared, so I don't have to try to guess what it is. And then you change this to double, because this should be double. The option should stay int because the option is used in the switch case. Now this next, this is wrong. This should not have been double. It should have stayed as int. So I did not pay attention to that. And this is done, basically. Yes?
How we found this, the down thing?
Control H. Control H shows you this. Or maybe somewhere here, edit, you have this replace in project. No, replace, this one. So Control H or replace. So it shows you what you would like to look for and what you would like to replace it with. Is that okay? So similarly, you have a video that does that for lab 1. Have a look at it because it does also the same thing with this student. But maybe, you know what, I'm going to do it again just because I think I misplaced the class student for this lab 1, so I cannot find it. I wanted to share it with you, but I couldn't find it. So I'm just going to do it again, just this one. Okay. So the student implemented from lab 1 was probably just, I remember, it was like a class called student. In that class student, we had like three members: private int, ID, private string name, and private double, the GPA. And then we had some constructors, right? 3 constructors, or 2? 3 constructors? Three constructors.
One have ID and name. One
Okay.
has ID and name. And
You know what? I can just also find that also here. Just maybe not in week 2, but in week 1. Just let me display this so I can see both of them, or maybe here as well. If I click on week 1, I can find I have put something here. So this is the information about class student, etc. The class should have 3 constructors: one that takes only the ID, one that takes the ID and name, and one that takes all the 3. And I showed you also in the video that you can generate those with Alt Insert or just source insert code. That's the same thing. It's going to show you this. And then you can insert a constructor that just by selecting this one, you make it just a constructor that initializes just the ID. And another time, Alt Insert and constructor, select them the ID and name. And the third one, Alt Insert again, that just initialize them all. But you know what, this is not something that I'm going to use this way. I'm going to change this because I would like to use the third constructor all the time. Now if the ID is given to me, I'm going to use the ID, and then for the rest I'm going to make it empty and then maybe -1 to show that this was not entered for some kind. And I'm going to do the same, but this time well, I have the ID and name, except that this empty not going to be empty. I'm going to put some name, or I can put whatever default value I think makes sense to me, whatever. Just to show you something different from what I did last time. So I'm calling the same constructor, this one, in different from this constructor is like my base, and I'm using it in the rest. I always call it like this. Are you comfortable with this? Okay, so that's the, I think that's it. And then we have the class should have the equals on the toString, and guess what? The equals, I can generate it immediately just by having Alt Insert again, equals. It comes with some hash code, another method, but I don't care about it. I just would like to make sure that there was a talk about these fields. Which one should I include? How can I test? So look at the video number 1 for the lab 1. I'm just going to select ID. And this hash code, I don't care about it for now. I don't want to talk about it. It's not something needed. But this is generating the whole thing. You should be able to understand this. I think I spoke about it in the video number 1. Then you can have back to it, because this explains some of the parts. I think I did. So anyways, have a look at the first video. Where to find that first video? I think that's the one. Okay, or maybe here on the website. That's I think this is it shows better. I think this is the one. Yes, when I have this week 1 lab 1. So I put everything there. All right. So this is our student. Now the last thing is the toString. No, the toString must return only the field values separated by a tab instead of without field names, which means I can also, by the way, generate the toString. It's even easier. So I'll select them all because I want to see them all, and then I don't want to see these things, the field names, just the ID, and then a tab, and then the name, and then a tab, and then the GPA, and that's it. So that's the toString as required, and I'm done. So since I have this class now this task, let's go back to this lab 2. This task is to copy this class from lab 1 to lab 2. Anyways, we just did it now in lab 2. And then write a class test student that is similar to test item. So basically I'm going to, item was just this class that has this string name and price. Now we would like to use this test item as a template for our test student. So basically I'm going to do this. And yeah, I forgot to rename this DLL1. I'm going to press Ctrl R, and I'm going to remove this. This is important because I should not just change it here, because I need also to change it in the file name. So by using this Ctrl R from NetBeans, it allows you to make the changes everywhere it's needed. So it also does. This now is DLL, and also this is DLL without the 1. Okay, same thing. I'm going to use this Control H again and replace that with student. So every item now should be student, and I'm pretty confident, so I'm going to replace all, and I'm going to look for those problems that now have arisen. So I don't have now item name and price, so every time I'd like to add, I need 3 things. So I need like this is, let's say this is the name, I need a name. A price is like my GPA now. So what I'm going to do, this Control R, and this is a variable, so I can change it to GPA, and it's going to be changed everywhere. But this one, I'm going to Control H, instead of price, I'm going to mention GPA and replace all. Now everything, everywhere there's a price, is going to be GPA. Now all I need to do now is to add a variable for the ID. But let's see where the RD is declared. This is a double GPA string name. All I need to add is int ID to have something similar. Now let's go back here and do something like this time for the ID. So please enter, instead of item, Control H again, because student, this one item is lowercase I, that's why I'm using student. Please enter student name, etc. Anyways, replace all. And this is student ID, and next int, and ID. And copy and paste. Now I just need to put the ID in the student, because the constructor does not take a name and GPA, but the ID, name, and GPA. Okay, there's another thing, so let's find out the other problem. I have this here problem. Please enter the name of the student to delete. Well, we don't want to use this by name, because we would like to compare with what? Because the ID, because now if we go to this delete, we're going to find if it's equal. So if this student is equal to the other student, and then how do we compare? Remember, in the test student we just selected the ID. This is the only thing that we use to compare, to make sure that these are equal. This is how we decide that 2 students are equal. So we should use the ID. Then this should be the ID. Next int. And please enter now not the student, the name of the student, but the ID of the student to delete. And now this ID, just use the ID and say that sorry, the ID was not found. Okay, what else? Just click on this to take you to all the mistakes. Okay, this looks like the same problem, so I'm just copying, and this is, instead of delete, it should be find. So I'm just going to, but this is found. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to copy this to replace with this one, and just put the ID, and that's it. So if it was found, and then if the ID was not found, and that's it. Yes. Where? This one. Yes, you're right. Okay, for to find. Thank you. So yes, and that's pretty much it. Now this is going to work for a student. What I'm going to do, right click, run the file, and this is going to run this one. Because if I click on this one, I don't know which one is going to run. Now hold on, let me show this. Okay, so this is now, just to make sure it works, I'm going to add a node to the head. Okay, what's the student ID? 1, the name 1, and the GPA 1. And then I'm going to add to the tail 2 and 2 and GPA 2. And let's add to the head this time, just for fun, 3 and 3 and 3. Now if I display all these, print all nodes, what should I see? 3, then 1, then 2. So this is 3, This is 1, and this is 2. So if I don't like to see them like that, I would want to have something else. What I could do, I could just, for example, put some kind of, in the toString, I can put some change the way it looks, but I don't care about this now. So anyways, that's the first part. That this is just warming up. This is the most important, interesting part. Well, most of them are easy, but some of them are kind of interesting. Now, I would like to make a change to this DLL list. I mean, DLL class. There's no DLL list, is there? DLL, not list. There's no list. Let me just edit this. Yeah, there's no list. So I would like to make a change to this DLL class to add these methods. Get last, that returns the last node. Length, that returns the number of elements. ToString, that return all the nodes as a string, but the space, not the tab. Print reverse, which prints the content from the last one to the first one, and then this one here. This is where we stopped last time. That returns this method toArray is going to convert the list into an array of objects and return it back. Now let's do that. First of all, let's get last, and we need to go to this DLL and just find a spot somewhere. Let's say, okay, after the constructors, let's say maybe. And I'm going to have this get last. Well, this get last, you know what? It's like get first. I'm just going to copy this heading and put it here. Instead of get first, it's going to be last this time. So the get first, what it does this. It checks if the head is not null, then it returns the head's info. But now this is for get first. If we'd like to make it last now, this should be the tail. I'm checking if the tail is not null. Then if the tail is not null, I'm going to return the tail.info. If not, that means it's null, so I'm going to return null. There's nothing to return. So that's the get last. Is that okay? I'll just maybe put it next to it so it will be much closer to find out. Now this get first gets from the head, get last gets from the tail. Is this important? Can I get rid of this? Can I just keep it like this? Because if it's null, it's going to return this null. Can I do something like this? This for get first, just return the head. For get last, just return tail.info. No. No. If I do this, it will not work all the time. Now, which times it will not work? Can you tell me? When there are no nodes, when it's empty. Now, when it's empty, the head and tail are both null. So if you try to get .info from something that is null, you get a null pointer exception. So that's why we need to check. If it's not null, then give me the info. If it's null, okay, just return the null. Is that okay, inshallah? I want to show you something. I don't know if you know it, but since you're now advanced in the programming, you should know it. Now this thing that this thing here can be written like this. I don't know if you have seen this before or not, but this is another if else that is actually in just one line. Alaikum salam. Have you ever seen this before? No? This means this. This is a question. Ask if this is true. If this is true, this is going to be the result of the whole thing. This whole thing is going to be equal to this when this is true. If this is false, the result of this whole thing is going to be this null. So it's basically the same thing, but just in one line. This is something that is also an if else, but it's useful when you have only one thing to do in if, one thing to do in else, and you return something. So it's kind of convenient to have like a return like this, as opposed to this one that takes 4 lines or 5 lines. How many lines? 2, 4, 5 lines. But I hope it's not confusing to you. Is it a bit confusing? I'm going to leave it, so I'm going to upload that, inshallah, so you will have it. Okay. Any questions? So I'm just leaving it just for fun, so you can know something extra. Now this length. To get the length, basically, I'm just going to look for the print all, because it's almost the same thing. Because this is going to return an int, so it's not void. So instead of me doing this and printing something, I just would like to count how many elements do I have, because this print all is going to start from the first node and go from each node to the other until the end. So it will just go through each one of them. I'm not interested in displaying this time, I'm interested in counting. So every time I'm starting from the head. If the head is not null, okay, count plus plus, and then go to the next node. Is it not null? Okay, then count it, and so on, and keep doing so until I finish, and then I have finished. Actually, you know what? I can do it differently. I can also do it like this, and this. I'm trying to show you something different from the video from the lab one, so you can have different things. Basically, this, you're familiar now with the for loop without any body. Just put just a semicolon, which means now what I'm interested in is just to move from one node to the other. But here, this is a counter, which means every time, before I ask the question again, I do this plus plus. So I can do it this way or the other way. Both of them are fine. This is going to work as well. I'm going to show that to you, inshallah. But this is there's a problem here, because I have to return something which is going to count. Now this is telling me empty statement after the for, because this is not something usual that you put a for with nothing inside of it. So it just tells you, make sure you know what you're doing, because that's not something normal. You have a for loop, and then this might not be something useful, but in our case it is. It's like this for loop in define, if you remember. When we were talking about defined, this for loop does not do anything but to try to see if we can find the element that we're looking for. Just from the first one, starting from the first one, and go through each one of them until we find the element. So that's the same idea about here. And I'm just counting at the same time, because I can put more than one statement in the update or in the initialization, if you remember. I can also put this here, by the way. This count 0. But since I have to declare it outside, I cannot check the declaration inside, right? I cannot do this. Why? Because this count now is going to only be known inside this for loop, and I cannot use it here. So, and it seems like there was another problem. Anyways, I don't want to. Is that okay, inshallah? This is length. The toString, while it returns all the nodes separated by a space, is going to be like this print all again, instead of now print all. And I'm going to make a string, toString. Why is that a print all? Because I would like to see all the nodes. So print all is the one that goes from the first node till the one, and the end, the last one. Except that instead of, this is the returned value. So instead of being like a 0 returned value, instead of doing something like this, I'm going to add the information and add a space to it. And once for every node, I'll take the node's information and then put it in the string and go to the next one, add it to the string, separated with a space. So I get all this information separated by a space, and then I return this returned value. Now this toString, it returns all the node as a string separated by a space, and this is the loop that starts from the first one till the last one. And instead of displaying it the way the print all was working, I'm just storing it in a string so I can return it. That's the difference between this one and that one. Besides that, the code of starting from the first one until the last will stay the same. So how do you feel now being absent last time? Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to. So anyways, that's the toString. Any questions?
But toString would be the same job and print now?
No, because it will be the same output. Maybe if I use print all to display all the information, or use toString, it's going to be the same.
So the difference what's in the embedded in?
The difference is the way, yeah, this one does not return anything, it displays. This one gives you the whole text as a string. So you can display it the way you want it to, or maybe just store it somewhere, I don't know. But you're right, these two are almost similar. The only difference is this: the print all displays already on the screen immediately. You don't control it. Once you call it, it will display on the screen. This one you have more control, it gives you the text, and then you can decide how you would like to display it on the screen, because it's the text. And you forgot, please, about the water. Now the last one is the print reverse, which is again like print all. So I'm going to call it print reverse. But now instead of starting from the head, I should start from the tail. And then instead of going from the next, I go to the previous. And that's print reverse. Okay? Not much. Just you need to make sure that you understand the code so you can play with it. So print all basically is used in 3 of these. Maybe a 4th one, maybe, with this up to array. Because I would like to return an array of objects. So if I'd like to return an array of objects, I need to, for every node, I would like to store it inside of that array of objects. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create this array that I'm going to call, well, the returned value equal new object. And what's the size? I'm sorry? Exactly. The length is the size. Because we only have a value, only have a method called length that is going to calculate how many elements do I have in the list. Once I have that, just call it and put it as the size of my array. Now what I need to do is a for loop that is going to start from I until d. Returned value.length. Now I don't need to call this, because if I call this again, another for loop is going to be executed every time just to ask this question. So for every iteration of this for loop, another for loop is going to be executed, which is a lot of execution for nothing. Now I have this value, I can get it like this without any calculations. It's there already. So I'll just use this one, it's better. I don't know if you understood what I was trying to say. Doing this is going to work, but it's not efficient. Why? Because this for loop is going to repeat, let's say, 5 times. But every time it goes here, it will ask this question. To be able to answer this question, it needs to run this method. So it goes inside, the method counts, starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then go back here. Is 0 less than 5? Yes, get inside, do whatever you want to do, and then go, make it 1 now. Is 1 less than length? What is length? Go inside, calculate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then, so it's going to be a lot of calculations for nothing. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's better than to do something like this, which is like a variable. It's like this calculation was done once, stored somewhere, and then you just use it. Now what I need to do is that this returned value dot I should be equal to the head. If I do something like this, and then at the end I need to return this returned value. So I'm returning this array. Now if I do something like this, now every element of the array is going to be just the head. But I don't want to always return head, 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 head. For example, if my head is 1, if all this is an int, if my head is 1, the second one is 2, and then 3, this is going to always return 1, 1, 1 in the array. So I would like to move to the next one. Okay, but what I need to do is probably have something like this. Like this kind of, I will have this temp that starts with the head, put the temp here, and every time, once I'm done, I need to, after doing this, the temp should be now temp.next. And I know that this is going to stop at the right time, because I'm just repeating just for the number of elements that are in the list. So I can do something like this. That's another way, but this is a way. What I can do basically, I can also take this, put it here with a comma. But why is it complaining? Oh, there's a semicolon, and I'm curious to see why it's not something illegal start of expression. This didn't work as expected, because normally I can have 2 in the initialization as long as there's one question, one Boolean expression, which is the case. But it seems like there's a problem somewhere here. I don't know why. Okay, just leave it here. Yes. Plus equal 10. Why? Why you would like to temp? Well, I is an int, temp is a node. This cannot work. If you put I plus equal temp, this one I, this one plus equal. But this is a node. And then you're assuming that you have a plus, a node. Look what the error message tells you. But operand types for binary operator plus. First type is object, the second type is DLL T, the DLL node T. Now it tries to put a node and add it with a plus to an object. So okay, what does this plus do between a node and an object? So it's not known. The plus works with an int. It's programmed to work with int double in primitive data types. It is working also with the string as concatenation. But between objects, if I have student S1 plus S2, what does this mean? These are 2 objects. So how is this going to behave? They don't know. It's not programmed. If you want this to work, you have to program the plus between 2 objects. How will they work? But we don't have that. So that is the issue. So there's another way which will do this. So this is one way. Let me just put this and put it as a comment. The other way is, let me copy this again, and this one, remove the comments. To put the comments or to remove them, it's control, is the control control and this slash that is before the before the shift on the keyboard. So it allows you to shift the whole set of code to be commented or uncommented. Now what I want to show is that I can do something different by using this for loop. Now this for loop goes from one element to the other. So what I need to do is to put this into some kind of I. And now the thing is, the I should start from where? From 0 and then it should increase. I'm careful not to put plus plus before, because it will be 1 for the first time. So the last one is going to have a array index out of bound exception. So the plus plus is after, or if you don't want to get too fancy, just put it after, and that's clear. So now this is going to repeat for every node. Put it into the array and move the index of the array after you move from a node to another. How do you feel about that? Which one do you like? This one or this one? This one? Shorter? No, it's not. I think it's the same size. I mean, let's see. Even with this plus plus, if I remove this and move the extra lines, move the extra lines, and how short is it? 1 line short? Even this I can put it in 1 line. I can put it here. But I think probably this one is more comfortable for you because you've seen it so many times. And but I wanted to show you different ways. Both of these are alright, are working fine. You can test them. And that's the first part of this exercise. Now, I don't want to do the rest without you trying to do them. I'm going to add another thing, which is, for example, finding the minimum and find the max. And I'm going to add these now, and I would like you to continue with these ones. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this available. I'm going to put them on Blackboard, so you're going to find them also. All these files that I just updated. So I'm going to put this DLL, and then the student, and then the test double, and the test student. The rest we have them on Blackboard again.